Oh, hi. I don't know why this surprises me every single time when I go live. Um, anyway, so I hope you all are well. And I wanted to, first of all, thank everyone who has been watching these lives that I've been doing recently and commenting and speaking with me behind the scenes about it or on social media. I really appreciate it. And it's a lot of fun for me. Because I have some of these ideas and it's fun to be able to discuss it with people. So if you are subscribed or just came across randomly or however you ended up here, I appreciate you taking the time to watch and think about it and comment. So today I wanted to talk about synchronicities and synchronicity experiments because I was listening to Consensus Unreality, which is a great podcast, and you can find it on your podcast app. And I don't know, I just love those guys. They always have a fresh, interesting, thoughtful take, and they address unusual or less well-known books or authors or incidents. And recently they had on Joseph Matheny, who is that guy that did the Ong's Hat thing, our alternate reality game. And they were talking with him about some of his experiences. And it was funny because I have been experimenting with synchronicities for about 30 years now. And have been refining my techniques and thinking about them for many years since then. But if you're interested, Dr. Matheny was talking about one particular incident where he had constructed what he called a meta machine, which is kind of based a little bit on like ideas of surrealism, cut-ups, burrows, that type of thing, where you have kind of a set of symbols you feed in that you're trying to charge. You have random event, randomization type of element that you're bringing into your machine. And the human element, you feed certain elements to the outside so that you can get having it come in and recharge the system. But I'll always submit that this is the main element, is you give it a lot of your attention and then you can kind of have these synchronicities come up. And so he had this, I guess he was working in like Silicon Valley and had access to computers, and it's like in the mid 90s, and a lot of space for storage, and then just like running algorithms or programs through. And so he ended up, as part of this, meeting this homeless guy named, who told him he was named Emery, or at other times he'd been named Ezekiel. He had shifting identities. And basically he had this weird situation where Emery would show up, and whatever Matheny had been like typing into his computer and like obsessing about, basically, Emery would be, hey, how you doing? Blah, 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 and start like feeding it back to him. And he was talking about how disconcerting this was, and he really enjoyed it. But at the same time, it was like, really, okay, this is really not how reality is supposed to work. But it cracked me up because I've had a number of experiences myself where I was Emery or where someone was Emery to me. And I don't know, they've pretty much all been from me intentionally deciding, okay, I'm going to run this type of, set this intention for type of synchronicity experiment. And then, things happen. So I wanted to talk about that today, and just a little bit about what does this mean? What is it? How do you learn about these type of experiments? Why would you want to do it? What are some of the things you might want to consider, and just kind of tell some fun stories. One of the things that, and I'm going to be focusing on kind of two main incidents here. One of the things that can happen with these type of synchronicity experiments is that they help optimize your luck or your chances of meeting the person or the group or the area, the resources that you need to accomplish certain goals. that may be difficult for you to access otherwise. There's a lot of stories about like this, about people meeting people who are important to their research, or like the library angel phenomena, where it's like you need this one book and it just kind of, I mean, some people have said the books literally like jumped out at them from the shelves. But I'm in the US in California, and it, let's see, this seems very highfalutin and very impractical, right? You're talking about, this really is kind of like conceptual art of like the kind where you don't even have something you could sell to anyone, right? I was always a big fan of Yves Klein, the French artist, who did a lot of kind of self-erasing art projects. He was a conceptual artist. And there is that desire for pure art outside of the capitalist or social structure, religious type systems. But also sometimes you need resources. You are not sure how to get towards them. You can forward your projects, what you need or what other people need, by activating these type of systems that then can help put you in contact with resources and people and ideas and places. So in this day and age, if you're in the United States, this could be something that could at least increase your chances of helping people in your community with what they need. So the first thing that came to my mind when I was reading or listening to Matheny talking with the consensus unreality guys. So this is one of my first kind of synchronicity experiments. This is in the mid-90s. I was doing a lot of practice. And this is another point I want to hone in. It's like, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, right? You can read about this stuff. You can watch videos about it. You can think about it. You can write about it. If you want to get good at getting synchronicities popping, you have to practice. And I've included in the description here a number of articles on mine. And one of them is like, my method for inducing synchronicities. And that is article you can read, and it talks about methods of building in safeguards, things to consider, times to do it, times when probably it's not the greatest idea, and also just got ways of building in protections. I also have another of other articles about some of my synchronicity experiments that happen, and you can kind of see just some ways that it could go where things can be like embarrassing, or like on the edge of being like, oh gosh, I thought I injured someone, but actually no, it turned out okay. So there can be this heightened emotion which tends to go along with these type of experiences, tends to drive these type of experiences. And so it's just, to give you a heads up about possibly, Oliver, what are you doing? Speaking of heightened emotion, what to prepare for, what to watch out for. And while we're on this topic, if things are embarrassing, really, when it comes down to it, that's like probably the least of your problems. Like a lot of my own synchronicities tend to involve my own foibles, my sweet tooth, or underwear synchronicities, because I have like problems finding underwear that doesn't bother me. Stupid stuff like that, which really, in the larger picture, who cares, right? We all have food preferences, and we're all like wearing clothes and underwear. But socially, it can be very embarrassing. That kind of emotion can actually drive these and help propel these type of experiments. And so, especially if I'm involving other people, the way I was taught, if you're starting something, then you're the one who should take the brunt of anything negative that might happen, right? You're kind of like the first and last line of defense. So if I look like a buffoon, so be it, as long as everyone still has all their fingers and toes at the end of it. So it's just another way of looking at it. So the first incident that happened, I was, I think about 33, 34. I was living at Awam Choden. I was sitting a lot with Leslie Temple Thurston. I was spending a lot of time with a lady who ran a lot of sweat lodges and is very well versed about an incredible amount of different types of esoteric areas of expertise, let's say. Western astrology, Taoism, the Chinese 5-element system and acupuncture, things like that. So Leslie Temple Thurston was very interesting because she would teach us about how to structure your own consciousness and your own energy body in a way that you were kind of like your own temple where you're always carrying that with you, right? So you could have a temple in the physical if you want, and it makes sense to tie certain aspects of your consciousness into certain areas, certain places. But the real, let's say, powerhouse or what you're working with is your own energetic body and consciousness, will, and attention. And again, she has a number of, let's say, technological means where you can access this information. She has books, she has websites, videos, audio things. But the main thing is to be able to be around someone who's organizing their system in this way. Like when the Tibetan various lamas would come to Awam Choden, and they would be getting ready to do a ritual empowerment, let's say. There's all these practical matters that have to be put into place, but then also the whoever's going to be leading the empowerment has to have certain energetic transmission, I don't want to say structures and conduits built in. So if you're doing Vajra Yogini empowerment, right, you need to make sure that Vajra Yogini is on board with you, is going to be able to come through, right? So I was very interested in this idea. My friend Darsho, she would lead a sweat lodge every month. She'd been doing so for a couple of decades, and there's an incredible amount of physical work that happens. But also it's like, she's like, okay, who's going to be here? What's going on with them? Who should sit where according to the issues that they're having and their own particular, who they are as a person. How are we going to balance the personalities here? What are the people who are not going to be there, but who are going to be present energetically because, someone has a big problem with them? It's like if your mom is very ill and you're at a sweat, right? Your mom is involved. How do you structure all that, right? And this is not the physical stuff. It's all internal and happening through attention, prayer, meditation, your will, how you're structuring this, and how you're moving through the world. So I was very interested in these ideas and the whole idea of being able to set something in action that's kind of running in the background. And the first time that this came to my attention was when I was growing up. My dad worked for Western Union, and he would take us to work a lot and talk a lot about all these these guys that worked for him, or that he knew. And there were a lot of very unusual, interesting, eccentric people. But there was this one guy, I forget his name, and he was renowned because they'd have these telex machines, right? Which are these interconnected networks of terminals where you can input information and you can send it out just to one telex. You can blast it out nationwide. So it's like an interconnected, kind of like a World Wide Web or something. So they had this one guy, and he had fantastic accuracy because the way that the information would get into the system, right, was through typing. You'd type it into a terminal. So this guy was fascinating because he would sit there, he'd be typing, he'd be looking at whatever printed matter he was taking and then putting into the system. So like if a newspaper had an article and you saw have the paper article, he would look at it and enter that information word for word into the telex, and then it could be distributed that way through that network to, other papers. And like if you had the AP, right, they could send it out to all their subscribing newspapers. So he'd be looking at this printed material, he'd be typing, he had fantastic accuracy. Meanwhile, he'd be talking with the guys about, whatever happened with sports the night before or something. So it's like he had these like two different systems going on at the same time. And I was like, how can this be? It's very much like, as I found out later, Gurdjieff exercises, right? Where you're getting the idea that you're this larger system and you can have different things going on in your system at the same time. So I was liking the idea of, well, let's try and set intentions to make things happen or connect with people. So at this point, I was kind of in the beginning of trying to get my hand in this. And I remember I had set an intention. I was just like, it wasn't very clear because I wasn't very experienced, but I'm like, let's just see if there's anyone that kind of like needs like a reminder or some help with something. And like, if someone in the area where I could, if I'm happen to be around them, then this can happen. Anyway, so not long after that, I got the impulse to buy a pack of cigarettes, which I have. This is the only pack of cigarettes I've ever bought in my entire life. My mom's mom died when I was young of lung cancer. And so, it's not, and we didn't smoke in the family. And so it was not something I was interested in. And then I've had my own lung problems. I did buy a little bit of tobacco now and then, but I buy like loose tobacco. If you're going to be doing tobacco ties or an offering out in the wilderness, right, you're going to use a little bit of loose tobacco. But these are cigarettes, and I just put it in my purse, and I'm just like, a few days later, I was at Shattuck and Vine, right where the Cheese Board and the Chez Panisse and the Black Oak Books, the gourmet ghetto of Berkeley. And there was a store there for ladies' clothing, and I found something probably on sale. And this young woman was ringing me up, and we were talking, and I just noticed that every once in a while I would notice the date, and I'm like, oh, what a nice, beautiful day. And she's like, oh, it's my birthday. And so I just like, oh, and I pulled out these cigarettes, and I said, oh, these are for you. And I put them in front of her, and she looked like I had put like a rattlesnake in front of her. And she's like, it was a year ago today I stopped smoking. And she was really not up for saying much more after that. And I wasn't able to follow up with her. I'm not sure how that turned out for her, but it was definitely a thing where she had been thinking about this big change. And I hope she was able to stay with it, because she was a young woman, and it could be very bad for your health, obviously. So I was like, wow, this really worked, but I don't know that I was very skilled at that it was the right thing. But it shows that it's possible to set that intention and then to have circumstances and or people with similar intentions come into your field of awareness. So it kind of made me laugh, because it was kind of like, oh yeah, I was like Emery that time, and I did it on purpose. I'd set that intention, and then it came about, and I was like, okay, here. So that's one of my examples. I have some notes as usual. The tech angle is interesting, because, of course, Dr. Matheny was in Silicon Valley. He was heavily involved in new tech, coming up with the implementation of the internet at that time. And, that's very much has become associated with a lot of these technologically oriented methods of practice or promulgation. He also had the insight of using the internet, for example, as a way to communicate and put forth these narratives that then people could play with and interact with if they wanted to, and get drawn into these situations where you start to have these kind of knock-on effects. Um, I had been interested in interconnected tech and kind of randomizing tech since I was pretty young. Like I said, my dad worked for Western Union. He started as a telegram delivery boy, and he knew guys that were still doing the Morse code on the telegrams when he was coming up. Then they developed all these other technologies that allowed for like time standardization or transmission of like ticker tape, like stock prices and stuff, and the telex. If you've seen the movie All the President's Men, right, you see everything come out through the telex because that was the big interconnected situation there at the time. So it wasn't so shocking when the internet happened to me, because I've been kind of immersed in this growing up. And it's funny because even with the shortening words and leaving out vowels and coming up with this kind of shorthand was something that the guys who communicated by telex, the text and everything, would do a lot because, you know, they weren't typists so much. They were mostly text. And so they didn't want to use a lot of extra typing, you know, so it became like a shorthand that's very much like a lot of the shorthand that older people complain about today on the internet. But yeah, I'd found that even in among telegraph operators, you know, the guys that do the Morse code with the telegram, that they have, again, you know, your time is money, time is time. And so you would want to be as concise as possible. So they had a lot of shorthand, especially if they were just kind of communicating amongst themselves. So LOL, for example, I don't know if they used LOL back then, but it's those type of things are not, let's say, they existed before the internet. So it goes to show that the tech itself does not have to be like super expensive and super fancy and creative for it to be effective for you to create these synchronicities in the real world, right? The problem is if you are trying to create things like online, like AI, stupid movies and stuff like that. I mean, they look terrible and they're boring and they take huge amount of resources. But if you have a little small experiment that you set up using your attention, your will, thinking creatively about what symbols and processes are happening in your environment, let's say, kind of knitting your project into certain parts of your environment. Like, for example, if you think about like people that work graves, right? This is like a very obvious way to connect to a particular person, their role in the community, their narrative. And it's not just that their body is rotting in there, right? That's not the main thing. The main thing is that this is a locus in consensus reality. Sorry, consensus unreality voice, where attention can be focused. And you can even like meet real life people there who are going to have possibly similar interests and goals to you. So it's not so much that a particular type of machine, let's say, is going to be able to kick out synchronicities. It has to do with your attention to the matter. And if you think about it, there's things like, if you want, because Matheny in his meta machine, he talks about randomizing things, needing like a bunch of random, I don't want to say like I want to say a cloud, right? That's like a kind of cohesive thing. It has like a larger structure, but there's also like all those like molecules and everything are in there, and the electrical fields have a lot of randomicity happening in there. So you could tap into that, right? If you were in a place that is having some type of weather involving clouds, as your that aspect of your synchronicity machine. If you have like a water source near you, power lines, you don't have to go out there and like, poke a fork in the electrical outlet, but you can, let's say, if you have a pre-existing electrical fields due to the electrical things that are happening in your house, your city, you can kind of use your attention and focus to kind of take a little bit of that activity and use it to power your own processes. A big part of this too is being able to recruit people to help you in your project. And obviously this has huge impacts for what we're seeing in the world today, because like people that are resisting the authoritarian violence perpetrated by our government are coming together and being able to do that more effectively, either if it's like through political, legal action, or just people on the street. But developing those kind of information networks, it's good. And so that is another thing for making things happen in the world, which I think the best synchronicities are kind of consensus reality, verifiable. You need to recruit other people. So that, I think, is partly where like symbols and narrative come in, because of course narrative can be very entertaining and seductive and keep people's attention. And then whatever symbols you're using are going to help drive the narrative. I don't know why I was thinking the other day about this whole thing, and the whole, it sounds terrible, but the whole role of narrative, which I will say instead of BS, which could also be narrative. But when my sister and I were young and we were going to UC Berkeley, and we'd take BART, which is like the rapid transportation system, to and from school. And we were young and cute, right? And we had both had thyroid problems. You can see right here, we had both had thyroid surgery, and our scars were pretty prominent at the time. And this is in the mid 1980s. And I remember it was terrible of us, but we'd be able to, guys would start talking to us. I remember it was this one time particularly, this guy's like, oh, blah, blah. So it's like, oh yeah, actually we were born conjoined twins. Yeah, and so we were joined at the neck, and you can see recently we had surgery that was very successful to separate us. And this guy's like going, really? Like, why would you think that? We have a resemblance, but we're very obviously not identical. But it's funny, I think too. There's that kind of fine line where someone's kind of like wondering. I love it. I can just go back and think. It just makes me laugh. The look on his, you can see all the wheels turning, and then more people started to get interested. And they're looking at like what's going on. Like, is this kind of believe this? Are they really what? But creating that kind of element of uncertainty, keeping people on their toes. That kind of, is it really happening? Is it not? That's also, I mean, it's like liminality. It's the liminality of the trickster, right? It's just kind of what are we going to see going forward? I don't know. And as far as any technical, I feel terrible today. I keep saying that, but it's true. Usually I try and feel like a little perkier, but today you're just getting it raw, I guess. Again, if you have questions about a lot of the technicalities of how you might set something like this up, I've linked to the interview with Matheny and the Consensus Unreality guys. His article on the meta machine, which has like a nice diagram so you can kind of see things pointing around. I would not suggest using thallium because there's a very famous murder case where a guy actually murdered some people using thallium. It was a neighbor dispute, but yeah, don't use that type of stuff. But there's other things that you can use out there. And then again, my own writing, if you're interested, you can look at that, and it gives you some frameworks for how you can set up these type of experiments. The other incident that I thought about is a lot more serious, and it goes to show how you can use these kind of uncertain, unstable, but free spaces created by these type of synchronicity experiments is how I always think of it, or alternate reality narratives, to help perform, I don't want to say perform magical actions, but attempt to help people who are in having problems that are difficult of solution. And this happened many years ago. I was living in a small town, and there was a lot of people around who had been living there for like their whole life. I was close to a family, and they had one daughter. Well, they had more than one daughter, but this one daughter in particular. Um, and we were living kind of on a court, and another of my neighbors married a woman. Her brother started to come over to our neighborhood, and the one daughter of my other friend was like, "Oh my God, that's that guy who I worked with in the same place that he did for a number of years, and he stalked me and was obsessed with me." And you could tell that she was like really weirded out and really freaked out. And this had been like over 10, 15 years before, and she hadn't seen him, but she was just like really like, ah. So it's one of those things where, even if someone is like, violent, it can be difficult to get them, the authorities to do anything about stalking. But she hadn't seen or heard from him in years, and she was like upset that this had happened again. Now, as it occurred, not long after that, I was out, I don't know, looking at turkeys or something on our driveway. And this man, the stalker, came over and he looked at me. He's like, "I know who you are. And he said her name. And I was just like, and I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. Because part of me saw in that moment that, and this sounds like completely stupid, I'm saying it, but I was like, I can be more relaxed about this than my friend could. So I'll just let him think that. And he didn't seem like he would, like you could convince him otherwise anyway. And so that went on for, I don't know, like years. And he spoke to me a couple other times, but then most of the time he would just kind of see me and I would see him, nothing would happen. And, I never cleared it up with him. I never cleared it up with the friend. And she didn't have any further problems with him. It was kind of an energetic risk. I was thinking, is there a way that if I kind of play this role, right, like a game, like alternate reality game, where I'm this woman and it doesn't bother me and it helps to calm things down, maybe it'll work. And then it seems that somehow it did. It could be also that he was older and so less full of energy for bothering people. But I think it's a good example in that it shows how this type of tricksterish energy, this being able to play with symbols, being able to interact with other people in unexpected ways, against rules, to be able to assume various identities, can actually be helpful to people who have real problems. Because sometimes we need, I don't know, it's just like you need like a big reset, and you can feel very trapped in patterns, and like your identity is, everyone sees you one way and it's taking over. You need a change. These type of things, I mean, I love alternate reality and synchronicity experiments, all these things as art, as conceptual art on its own. I love that type of cutting up creativity. I wanted to mention my friend Patty from when we were growing up. From the time she was probably like in maybe junior high school. She's very interested in Brian Eno and a fan. We were all in band together. She played flute. And but she did a lot of research about Eno and Bowie's methods, and she was also a writer. And so I think she's the one who introduced me to the idea of Burroughs, William S. Burroughs, and the cut up and a lot of that stuff. And then my sister was also, when we were a little older, reading a lot about that book, The Banquet Years, like Alfred Jarry and all that set with Picasso and everything. And a lot of the Dadaist movements, surrealist movements. So involved in this whole sense of play and mixing things up and assuming different identities, and just practice. I mean, that I can't emphasize enough, although I managed to not so far. But if you want to get involved in these practices, I mean, it is a practice. Just start trying to do something. Because it's like sports or playing a musical instrument, right? You can read about it all you want. You can, talk a good game. It's like all those fantasy football people, It's a completely different animal when you're actually trying to do something. And with these magical practices, with these attentions of these practices of attention and intention, you just have to go for it. I mean, that's why, like, meditation and things like that, mantra, prayer, visualization, all these things are important. Improvisation, as Matheny mentioned, is another good one. I think that I was thinking about that, like with my sister and I, back in the day, I don't know, we were kind of cute, and we were in an area where we would, oh, there's a mockingbird, hi, where we would be thought to be cute. And so you could just be like walking down the street doing your business, and some guy comes up and starts telling you about this whole sexual fantasy that he'd like you to participate in. He's a complete stranger. And so yeah, I think that was the big improv school for us back in the day. It's like how you deal with all these well, there's a old British word for it, which I'm forgetting at the moment, but all these guys just trying to pick up on the street or whatever. So yeah, so you get good at assuming an identity, running with what is available, and focusing your attention on where you want to go. I think that's it, which is surprising because it seems like it should be longer. But I wanted to leave you with a synchronicity that I noticed when I was preparing for this talk. I thought, well, it'd be fun if I could find a picture of back when I was doing that first, the birthday cigarette experiment. Well, what turned out to be the birthday cigarette experiment. And I found this picture. There you go. You can't see it that well, but that's me in the middle. Oh God. And a couple of my friends. This is Darsha over here. And I love that outfit. It's so cute. Those are jodhpurs. I'm wearing cowboy boots. But this shirt was famous. Everyone called it the hat shirt, right? Because I'd made it, and it's this material that it's just like beige with these kind of beige and brown hats all over it. And so it was fun. It was practical. But this is the time when Matheny is starting to get interested in these experiments in the kind of the same general bioregion. I was like in Marin, Berkeley. He was like San Francisco, Santa Cruz, although I have a very long-standing connection to Santa Cruz and the Bay there as well from the time I was a girl. But the funny thing is, it's not like, oh, wow, isn't that wild? Because that was just a random thing, hats. The reason that I became associated with hats is because when I was about 20, I got in a car accident. It was really bad. And let's see, for a moment. I can't. I don't know if you could see the scar. Oh God, this is mirrored. It runs like this from here down to here and through here. So I've been in a car accident. It took over 150 stitches to put my face back together. It was just really bad, really bloody, and pretty intense. I never lost consciousness though, and I healed up pretty nicely because they brought in a plastic surgeon to stitch me up because I was like a young woman with this thing all over my face. And for the next year, I had to wear sunscreen and hats all the time so that the scar would heal up less noticeably. And so after that, I was like, hey, my skin feels a lot better because I'm not getting like completely fried all the time because I have no melanin to speak of. And so I started wearing hats all the time. So it's interesting to me that we have the picture of me for there, and it's like about a hat blouse, but it's not just like hat there. It knits back into this like very intense experience of mine that is symbolized by the hat. So it goes to show when you get these synchronicity or kind of symbol situations that are highly charged and have a lot of people putting in attention to them, that they have these pretty intense real world ramifications or emanations, kind of I wanted to say blubbering out there. I don't know if you guys remember when I was talking about my crazy and wonderful family, but I thought this would be fun. This is one of my Grandpa Bolivar's motorcycle trophies that he won. The American Motorcycle Association, May 3rd, 1931, in Redlands, California, by Oliver Clow. And then, of course, we all love our dogs in our family. So we have various ghost dogs. There are toys there for them. And then here is my grandma. See if you see a little better. Yeah, she was so pretty. Yeah. So that was his wife, just my mom's parents. So I thought I would give you a little something fun to look at. This is kind of funny because this is where what I saw growing up and where I always used to like to wear jobbers because you see grandma wearing leather jobbers. When we were growing up. So thank you again. I put it in the description or like I don't know, it's not the comments, the other part of the YouTube. And so if you have any questions, you can always hit me up, leave a comment or whatever. And then if you follow through on any of the links to my blog, I have like a ton of other stuff about synchronicities in there too. So play safe and happy Friday and thank you.